Okay, so we've come back over to the 9 Network. We're in the Public Media Commons with Kat Neville of Feast TV, where we can often see you doing Taste and See here in the Public Media Commons. One coming up on beer, if I'm not mistaken.
Pizza and beer on June 17th.
Very good. Okay, so then we're going to draw on your beer expertise. We'll save pizza for another time.
Okay.
Tell me what's going on. Is this beer thing real in St. Louis when you look at it from outside of the city limits and our little subculture of beer here?
It's definitely very real. The culture of beer in St. Louis, it's part of our heritage.
Sure.
It's part of, especially St. Louis having such a heavy German influence. There used to be breweries on almost every corner. People would carry their pails with them to pick up beer and take home for the week. And so what we're seeing now with this resurgence of craft brewing is going back, in time a little bit. And each brewery, really has its own personality, its own way of approaching beer. And that's what makes it so fun, is that when you go to these different breweries, you're never going to taste a beer that is similar or alike, because each brewer, that's part of what it means to be craft, is they're putting their stamp and their personality in the product that they're creating.
Which may explain why we hear them talking about how much they cooperate and what a community is with the brewers themselves.
Yeah.
Some awards I've been reading about a little bit. Tell us, are people taking notice of the beer that we're putting out now?
Absolutely. St. Louis is creating beer on a world-class level. And because we have so much energy in this industry, we're ideally located in the center of the country. And a lot of our breweries that started out small, like a Four Hands or an Urban Chestnut, they now are distributing, far and wide. They aren't, some of the craft brewers, they want to stay small, that's their aim, but some of these other guys, they have a real interest in taking St. Louis beer to a much larger audience, and that is making it so that people around the country are paying attention to what's happening here.
Is it still kind of a boys' club? Are women brewers getting involved in this at all?
There are more ladies getting into brewing, and there are actually some women brewers groups, and traditionally women were the brewers.
Really?
The brewsters, and so it was part of your weekly chores at home, so you'd bake bread and you'd brew beer. And so over the years it was taken over by the guys, but historically it's women who were the brewers.
And does it pair with food in the way that we think of wine?
Absolutely.
Does it have that level of complexity?
Absolutely. When you think about the difference between a light lager and some of these new really interesting sours that are on the market, the breadth of flavor and even just the heaviness of certain beers and the level of carbonation and all this kind of stuff, you absolutely compare beer in the same way that you do wine or even cocktails now to enhance food. And that's really what so many of these beverages are designed to do, is not just be consumed on their own, but it enhances the culinary experience. And I personally love sour beers for that reason. It's one of the reasons why I really like wine so much, is that kind of like bright acidity. So to me, sour beers go really well with food.
Fascinating. I'm going to have to try some sour beer.
Oh, you should.
You're also in Kansas City with Feast TV. I'm curious, is there any comparison? Are things happening throughout the state that you see with this beer?
The craft beer industry across the nation is growing. In St. Louis, it has, I think, more energy than it does in other spots around the state. Again, going back to just that very steeped beer culture that we have here. But you do definitely see folks that are experimenting no matter where they are in Missouri.
Kat Neville, Feast TV, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Looking forward to Taste and See here in the Public
Thank
Media
you.
Commons.
Yes, I expect you to be here.
I will, don't worry. Thank you, Kat. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.